The world is watching as tensions between NATO, the US, and Russia continue to escalate, especially in the context of the ongoing war in Ukraine. The conflict has reached a dangerous tipping point, and many are concerned that we could be on the brink of a much larger, more destructive war. At the heart of this growing crisis is the perception that NATO is pushing Russia to the wall. The West, particularly countries like the US and the UK, has been supplying Ukraine with advanced, long-range weapons such as Storm Shadows and ATACMS missiles. These weapons give Ukraine the ability to strike far beyond the front lines, hitting targets in places like Crimea and Donbass, territories claimed by Russia after the annexations. But now, there's talk that the West might allow Ukraine to target areas deep inside Russia itself. This would mark a significant escalation, transforming how this war is fought and how Russia might respond. Meanwhile, Russia has reportedly received ballistic missiles from Iran, adding another layer of complexity to this conflict. Iran's indirect involvement gives Western nations more justification to lift restrictions on how Ukraine can use Western-supplied weapons, further escalating the conflict. This leads us to the most serious concern: the risk of nuclear escalation. Russia has consistently warned that attacks on its recognized territory would cross a red line, possibly triggering a much stronger response. If Ukraine, armed with Western weapons, starts striking deep inside Russia, Moscow could view this as a direct provocation by NATO. In that case, the consequences could be catastrophic. From Russia's perspective, the growing military support for Ukraine looks like a broader NATO strategy to weaken and isolate them. This perception of being cornered could push Russia to adopt more aggressive, even desperate measures. And remember, Russia has hinted at the possibility of using nuclear weapons if it feels an existential threat. While nuclear escalation remains a last resort for Russia, the stakes are incredibly high. NATO now finds itself in a difficult position. On the one hand, it wants to provide Ukraine with the critical support it needs to defend itself. On the other hand, there's a real risk that by continuing to arm Ukraine with increasingly powerful weapons, NATO could provoke Russia into a more aggressive response. Russia's rhetoric has grown more hostile with each new shipment of advanced weapons to Ukraine. The possibility of Ukraine striking inside Russia itself, beyond Crimea and Donbass, could force Moscow to take drastic actions. The more this conflict escalates, the harder it will be to control. In conclusion, the situation between NATO and Russia is becoming more dangerous by the day. By supplying Ukraine with long-range missiles, the West risks pushing Russia into a corner where it feels compelled to retaliate more forcefully. This scenario has the potential to spiral into a broader conflict, with even nuclear threats on the table. Both NATO and Russia now face a critical choice: either continue down this path of escalation, or find a way to de-escalate before the situation spirals out of control. The next steps will be crucial for the future of global security, and the world is watching closely.